Today we decided to visit Hokkaido Historical Village, which is a collection of older buildings that have been relocated to this property from the 1860s through the 1920s.
I'm really excited to get inside and take a look at things. I think there are upward of about 60 historical buildings inside that I think are arranged to make like a small village. So let's go take a look.
If you're new to our channel, I'm Chris.
And I'm Stephanie.
We are currently at the tail end of our trip. We started a year ago in Southeast Asia and we've made our way to Japan. So if you're interested in catching up on our journey, you can go take a look back at some of our previous videos.
So looking at the map, it's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was. So let's go see what we can find. And there's a horse. Sapporo office. This is the visitor center. Okay, so number 2 is the visitor center. So this might seem obvious, but we're going to start with the visitor center that's behind me. And what I find really interesting is it's an 1870s Western architectural style, which always fascinates me to see that in other countries that aren't typically Western.
Okay, so there wasn't too much inside the building. It was mainly a lecture hall and it had a little diorama. So we are heading to the Main Street area and we're going to take a look at what's down the Main Street.
One of the first buildings on the corner that we saw was the Kurumasa Inn, which we're currently inside of right now. And the building is originally from 1919, and then it was donated to the museum by Mr. Kurumasa, which I think is really cool. And you can see the different rooms where guests would stay, and a little kitchen area and a tea room. And it's just got so much character. It's really fascinating. Whenever we go to a museum, whether it's outdoor or indoor, we all seem to run into a few school groups, and today is no exception.
When we see school children, it usually indicates that the site we're visiting is pretty high quality and there's some type of historical significance. So in this case, I think we may have hit the mark visiting this site.
One thing I find really interesting is there are several buildings or several old residences that say they're Western style. And that's absolutely true about the exterior architecture, but inside, totally Japanese with sliding doors, tatami mat rooms. So it's really interesting to see the differences between the outside and the inside.
So here is a great example of a house that sort of blends Western and Japanese style. You walk in and it looks completely Western, but then when you walk towards the back of the house, and even from the exterior you can see this, it's completely Japanese. Like, no mistaking the Japanese interior. So very, very interesting blend between the two styles of architecture.
Until the end of the 19th century, a typical meal in Sapporo consisted of rice, miso soup, and pickles with fresh fish or vegetables boiled in soy sauce. A campaign to promote Western-style food was started by the local government in the 1870s, contributing to the gradual spread by the early 1900s of such new foods as tomato, cabbage, red meat, and butter, and other dairy products. It was at this time that frying pans, large dishes, and spoons began to appear in ordinary kitchens.
So what I'm noticing as a small little detail, and I really think it sort of adds to the ambiance, is that they have included these telephone poles with wires connecting to all the building all throughout this village. They look old. They probably are old, I don't know, but it just kind of adds a bit to the feel of this little village. Behind me is the Hokkaido Junior High School, which was constructed in 1909. Now, this is not where it was originally located. Of course, I think we said at the beginning of the video that this is a representation of historic buildings. So this was a very, very prestigious school. And you can see from inside, it's very spacious. And I assume, but I'm not sure, that some of the interior pieces are at least representative of how it looked during the time that it was active. And it's really cool and really big.
So behind me is representation of a fishing village that specialized in herring fishing and preservation and The big structure right behind me had accommodation in it, I think net storage, different aspects of fishing life. So I think it's really, really interesting that this is included in the museum as well. The sign for the building behind me says it's a herring storage house. So I thought, okay, well, let's just go in and see. And there's 2 giant boats in it, 2 giant fishing boats in it. You can go up these steps and look into the top of these fishing boats where people would have fished and put the fish in the hold and everything. Is really cool, and they're really, really big. It's not something we see every day, so kind of exciting. So it's a little overcast today, but it feels absolutely wonderful. It's the first kind of autumnal fall-like day we've had in like many, 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 many months, so we're kind of enjoying it.
I just realized this site is split into 4 different parts. The town, a fishing village, which we went through earlier, a farming village, which we're currently walking through right now, which has a farmhouse, a silkworm house where they did all of this silkworm raising and I guess silk harvesting, a machine shed, and then a bunch of other properties, including like a little garden area as well. And then the final one is a mountain village, which we're still on our way to seeing. So we actually haven't even seen much of the town. This is a pretty big area. Like I kind of misread the size of it, but it's actually really, really interesting. So I'm glad we came because, again, you never really know with these things, but we're probably going to be here quite a bit longer to finish seeing everything that's here, which we absolutely intend to do.
If you've made it this far in the video, you must like this village as much as we do. So please consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing.
So the farming village has a relay station, which we learned is where you would trade out your horse, or maybe you would just stay overnight and let your horse rest. I'm not sure how they did it back in the days, but there's a place to sleep and a place for the horses. It actually looks like a very typical Western town when you think of like US Westerns. It's kind of cool to walk through here and see all the similarities. And then inside, of course, it's all Japanese, which is even cooler because I think like a Japanese Western is like super cool. So we just went into this barn behind me, and what's kind of cool here is that they have these docents that are in some of the buildings that are there to explain a bit about the history. Now, we don't speak Japanese, so it's not as easy for us, but the gentleman in there explained to us that dairy farming in Hokkaido, which if you don't know, Hokkaido is very famous for its dairy, was actually brought to Hokkaido from America. So the process of, I guess, dairy farming, and I think Holstein cows, or Holstein, something like that, were brought over as well. So that was a fun fact that we didn't really know, and we learned something cool. But this is a great place to come. We're learning a lot. And I forgot to mention that you can milk a fake cow right here in this barn. So I just walked by this thatched roof house, and all these drums start playing, and I look in and I see Stephanie in her orange pants, and I'm like, what are you doing? Turns out I found her doppelganger.
Let's head into the mountain village now.
This is the first time, I think, in the past year that we were able to go out, do exercise, and we're not dripping with sweat. In fact, it's been raining today, and it's quite cool. I've got a raincoat on. It's really nice.
It's so nice.
We've arrived at the mountain village. This is a charcoal making shed, which is used to make charcoal. I'm really liking this historical village.
Yeah.
We're getting exercise, and we're learning actually quite a bit about the history of this part of Japan, which is really interesting. It's always fun to come do this because you're in, I mean, this isn't an actual like historic village, but you're in the area where a lot of this all took place, and it's just fun to kind of feel like you've got the context as well as the historical perspective. So this was a good decision to come out here. As I said in the beginning of the video, we're never quite sure what we're going to find at places like this, but this was definitely a great decision. So we have a woodcutter's shanty right behind us. Above us, all these acorns, which are like falling off the trees and smashing onto the roof and making these really loud noises, which makes me feel like if one of them were to hit me on the head, my head would make that noise. We're gonna go inside real quick and check it out because it feels like kind of precarious right here. So I think the idea here is that they had a whole bunch of people that would come out and chop trees down, and this is an area that they would stay in. It actually is quite nice in here. It smells like cedar, in fact. The reason is because the walls are lined with cedar. Maybe it's just the lighting, but it looks like very fancy in here, doesn't it? Looks like a look over there. So this is a martial arts gymnasium right here that was constructed, I guess, originally for just a regular school, like it was just part of a school, but it's pretty fancy for a regular school. So I don't know. Let's go in and check it out. So you do need to take your shoes off to come into most of these buildings here. So think about that if you're coming here. You do want to wear some kind of shoes that are easy to get on and off, but you also want to wear shoes that are good for the outdoors and moderate hiking, as well as shoes that are not going to get too wet because it does rain here. And I think it snows as well, so you might want to bring something in the colder weather season that is snow resistant. So add all those things up together and you've got the perfect type of shoe for this site. Yeah, so it's a big room with a lot of space for people to, I guess, practice martial arts. Kind of cool. So now we're going to check out these two buildings right behind us. So this building was an agricultural hostel that was built in 1903. It's quite large, and we're going to go in and take a look inside. So there are two wings here. I'm hoping they don't let us go upstairs because that's going to be a lot of exploring, but it's a pretty big building, which I guess makes sense if it was a hostel. You need a lot of bedding. It looks like this place at one point in history had seen better days, and I'm guessing they put a ton of money into reconstructing and moving this building because, as you can see from some of these pictures, it was fallen way into disrepair and parts of it had even collapsed. So I guess at one point there were a total of 4 wings, and it looks like from this model that they were even longer than what they preserved here. So likely a lot of the building collapsed, fell apart over time, and they've salvaged parts of it, but enough that we can see pretty well what life looked like here on this agricultural hostel. And it looks like we can go upstairs, which means there's quite a bit more that we need to see here. It's a very, very big facility. So this is a railway shed, which was used for logging back in the day. It says between the 1920s and 1960s. And earlier we saw a logger's shanty, which was where I would believe a lot of the loggers would stay. So there's probably some correlation here with this mountain village and maybe logging being very prominent in the early 20th century in Hokkaido. We've made our way back to the town, and we just realized that this place closes earlier than we thought. Google Maps says it closes at 5, but they've just switched to winter hours. It's now October, and we've got about 30 minutes to make it through the town. So we got a lot of town to cover, so we're gonna get to it.
Behind me is a grocery, so we're gonna go in and take a peek. Really curious what they have inside. Pottery, oh, lots of stuff. Household goods. It's a household goods, clothing. You know what they have in here? Those delicious Those delicious little burnt sugar things we had the other day that were so yummy and looked terrible, but were delicious. It looks like they have a jar of them in here. Makes me want some. I'm hungry.
Here we have a cart and sleigh factory. Here is the blacksmith, and we just got the 30-minute warning, so we gotta hustle. We have the Urikawa Church. Yamamoto's barbershop.
And the post office is behind me.
Dr. Kondo's clinic behind me, built in 1919, but used until 1956. So not that long ago.
So the building behind me was built in 1909, and it was the Ataro Shimbu newspaper. It was one of the most popular newspapers in Hokkaido between the 1890s and 1942. We thought it was a bank.
I definitely thought it was a bank. It looks like a bank. I'm also curious how much effort it took to relocate this place, because I'm guessing they had to take it apart brick by brick and move it. That's a pretty substantial effort. All right, looks like Stephanie has scoped out the next building. We're almost back to the beginning of this place.
So I found one of our favorite things, a noodle shop.
So I think we've very quickly seen almost everything here. We missed a couple of things. There was a bridge I wanted to go across, like a suspension bridge, so I'm pretty bummed out about that. But we've been here for most of the day, so this is a pretty substantial undertaking if you really want to see every building, which we tried to do. We're now approaching the old Sapporo railway station, which honestly looks like the most stereotypical railway station that I've ever seen. It's really cool.
Turn of the century America.
Now we need to figure out how to get the bus back, because we have buses that come every 30 minutes, I think, so we don't want to miss this one. So let's go try to figure that out.
So glad we came out here today to the Hokkaido Historical Museum. Great time, really super interesting, very good walk, beautiful buildings, really educational. It was fun, had some good curry, really yummy here at the restaurant.
We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it. If you did, you can give us a thumbs up. And if you really, really liked it, you could subscribe so you don't miss our next one, because we're going to be doing some other really cool stuff in Sapporo and in Japan. We'll see you in the next one.